What's up, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Jessica. If you're new here, if you're not new here, thanks for coming back. I am a woman in long-term recovery. Sorry, I'm having one of those days where, shit just is not going right. So y'all bear with me today. I'm a woman in long-term recovery. I went through a 14-year drug addiction. And now I am a certified Narcan trainer. I'm a peer recovery specialist, and I am beyond blessed that I get to spend my days now hanging out with people that are in active addiction and in the recovery community and struggling with their mental health, things like that, and just helping them. Listening to them, hanging out with them, doing whatever I can to make their lives a little bit better, give them someone to, rant to or a shoulder to lean on, whatever the situation may be. And as a side note, I make YouTube videos. So I get to come on here and talk about addiction, my addiction, things that I learned in my addiction and in my recovery, and to give yet another space for people to come and reach out to me if they need to, kind of share, I guess, my knowledge. I hate to say it that way, but another place for me to share my knowledge, reach out to people, stuff like that. And that's where you have landed, is my YouTube page. Again, like I said, my name is Jessica. So, welcome if you're new here. If you're not new here, thanks for coming back. Maybe we'll see how many times I can say that in one video. Today's not the day, y'all. I'm telling you. But we're going to do it. I get a lot of questions, not necessarily on here, but when I talk to people, especially when I'm talking to people in a peer capacity, about where my recovery started and how my recovery started. And I've talked about this in a couple of other videos, but about, I don't know, a couple weeks ago I was talking to my dad, and my dad asked me why I supported NA, but I didn't go to NA anymore. And for those of you that don't know, NA is Narcotics Anonymous, and it's a 12-step recovery pathway. So, my dad is a very smart man, and he thinks about things sometimes in a way that I personally would never think about. So every time I put up a video or we're having a conversation about something, I love it when he gives me input, because his mind works in a completely different way than mine does. And he gives me such valuable insights, and I'm like, damn, Dad, he brought up some points that I wouldn't have thought of, that I wouldn't have considered. So after talking to him, I was like, I probably should make a video and kind of clear things up. And before I go into anything else, I just want to say, just like with any of my other videos that I put up, or, if you guys follow me on Instagram or any of my other social media, unless I say otherwise, like the video that I put up on Wednesday, if I put up a video that I can back by science, I'll link those articles or websites or studies or whatever it is in my description box below. For videos like today, these are my thoughts. These are my experiences, and that's it. This is my experience with Narcotics Anonymous. And I just want to say, for anybody that is out there watching, if you are newly in recovery and you have found your way to the rooms of NA and it is working for you right now, please, please, please do not let my video or anybody else's video sway you in your decision. Do what works for you. There are so many different ways for people to recover. There is no right or wrong way at all. And just because once I got to a certain point in my recovery, I found that NA did not work for me anymore, doesn't mean that it's a wrong way. So please don't think that that's what I'm trying to say. There are things that I love about NA. I have a lot of people in my life right now that I love dearly, that have helped me through quite a lot of things. And they wouldn't be here today if not for their recovery being based in NA. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for Narcotics Anonymous for that. It just didn't personally work out for me, and I'm going to tell you why. But I did just kind of want to put that disclaimer out there. I'm in no way discounting anybody's recovery pathway. You guys know me. If you've followed me for any amount of time or ever had a conversation with me, you know how I feel about that. I don't gatekeep anyone's recovery pathway. I don't believe in doing it. And I don't believe that anybody else has the right to do that either. And I just don't do it. We're going to leave that at that before this video takes a turn and we talk about something else. So, to kind of just give you a shortened version, in case you haven't seen any of my other videos, my recovery did start in the rooms of NA because 12-step programs are very widely publicly known. And when I decided that I wanted to do something different and that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, NA was very easily accessible. I did a Google search for it, to be honest with you. I looked it up on the internet the very first time. So, you can go on anywhere that you are and look it up. I'll link NA's website in my description box below for anybody that wants to check it out. You can look it up and it takes you to their website. You can plug in. I can't remember now because it's been so long if it's like, your zip code or whatever. But whatever it is, you tell them your location. And I immediately was able to call someone that was local in my area. And I called the phone number they gave me and she picked right up. And she was able to tell me a meeting that at the time was right down the road from me. So, I just started going to meetings and it was overwhelming at first because, I come from a very small town and everybody in town knows my mom, my stepdad, my dad, my stepmom not so much, but she's quiet. But everybody knows everybody in my town, and they all know me. So I was very nervous about going to a 12-step meeting and people seeing me, because my addiction was very well hid. I have countless people come up to me. And even now, I go out in public with shirts that say, crazy shit about, ending overdoses and stuff like that. And people are like, oh, why are you wearing that shirt? They have no idea. So I did a very good job at hiding my addiction. So a lot of people did not know that I had a drug addiction. And I was very scared that people would know that I was at that church at that time to go to a 12-step meeting. I don't, looking back on it now, it's silly, but it's just a fear, that's very common for people that are new to meetings. to be honest with you. And of course, the very first meeting that I go to, I park in the parking lot and I'm looking across the street, and the what everybody thinks about NA meetings, everybody standing outside smoking, is true. And of course, I look out and there's people standing there, and I'm like, okay, do I know anybody? And yeah, I know somebody. And I flipped out, not thinking in my mind, well, he's here for the same reason, that you are, Jessica. But I went to my first meeting high, and I feel like that's a common thing. A lot of people go to their first NA meeting high, or several NA meetings. And the same with AA, because I've been to AA meetings too. My first little bit of sobriety, I was so desperate to just have something to help me that I didn't care. I stopped going to AA meetings because my local area, AA wouldn't let me come in because I didn't identify as an alcoholic. So once they realized that I didn't identify as an alcoholic, they didn't want to let me into their meetings, which they're not supposed to do that, but people are also not supposed to just be shitty people, and they are. So, it is what it is. So I went to meetings for a while. I actually relapsed, and I went back out for quite a few years. And then when I got to my end of my road, if you will, in my active addiction, I decided that I was going to get sober and stay sober, and that I was done using. I went back to NA because it was what I knew. And I knew that there were people that, even though it was the middle of the night, that I could text, and that they would pick up the phone, or answer a Facebook message or whatever it was. And they did. And so I went back the second time. I got a sponsor. And I put a lot into it the second time, and I think that's one of the reasons why I was so disappointed and discouraged and hurt about my whole NA experience, because I was putting so much into it. The first time I didn't want to do the step work. I didn't ever ask anybody to be my sponsor. I did the meetings, I went to meetings and did all that. But the second time that I went, I was very serious. I was very dedicated to my recovery. I knew that, no matter what I did, whether it was going to be 12 steps or maintenance or something like that, that I was done using drugs. I was done with the lying and the disappointing my daughter, because I could hide it from a lot of people, but I could never hide it from Danielle, my daughter. And, I was just sick of it. Just sick of it. Sick of living that way, and sick of being tired of being alive. You can only go for so long asking God to take your life and Him not doing it before you realize that He has other plans for you. I mean, in my case. So, to move along here, I've got to the point that I would go and open up meetings. I had a dedicated day of the week that I would open up my home group. I chaired meetings. I was in it to win it, as they say. And there have always been things about the 12-step program that rubbed me the wrong way. But I want to try to do the positive things first, and then and then I'll move into the negative things, because I don't want to just start off with the negative things, because like I said, I will always I support any recovery pathway that works for people. I think that 12-step programs do work for people. I mean, I know that they do. Excuse me, because like I said, I know a lot of people that participate in NA. I still go to people's celebrations. They call and ask, I'm getting ready to celebrate fill in the blank. However many years or however many months will you come? And yeah, absolutely. If you guys call and want me to come to your celebrations, then I'm fucking coming. Because I support people no matter what. So I don't want to start off with the negative. And again, just because I had what turned out to be a negative experience, doesn't mean that you will. It doesn't mean that you are. And I don't want to sway anyone's opinion. I just want to be honest with you guys and tell you why I don't do it anymore, and explain to you why you hear me talk about NA, but you don't hear me talk about going to meetings, why you don't hear me say that I have a sponsor, etc., etc. Excuse me. As soon as I learn how to edit, I will edit that stuff out, y'all. Haven't quite figured it out yet, though. I'm working on it. But yeah, I love that stuff. Like I love the yeah, I'm looking at my notes. I love the overall premise of NA. Like I love the idea that you could have a community of people, because at that time in my life, I had gone a very long time in my life without having family. Not saying that I don't have family, but for most of my life, I have gone without having a consistent, steady connection with my family. My family is really great at, we love each other consistently, but we are really great at making amends, and we will love each other really hard for a couple of years, and then something will happen, whether it's big or something trivial, and then we stop talking to each other for however long. And then, 5 or 10 years will go by, and then it starts over. So I've gone a very long time in my life without having consistent, steady family members in my life. And, it fucks with all of us. So when I started realizing what NA was, I was like, okay, this is kind of like a family. I mean, they went out to eat together. They slept over at each other's houses together. They went shopping together. When one of them would move, they would all go over. When something happened, in somebody's, in one person's life, they would all group around that person, and in my mind, that is what family is supposed to be like. So I wanted that, and I thought that is what I was going to get in NA. And I think that is what the original people that came up with AA, because Narcotics Anonymous is just based off the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think when those guys were sitting there writing the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I think that's what they wanted. And then, humans got in the way. And it's just not that way in my area for NA. And, that's okay. It just wasn't that way for me. And anyway, I didn't, I really liked having the idea of the steps before I really started to look into them, because as we know, I have a lot of childhood trauma. I have a lot of PTSD from my childhood. I have PTSD from past relationships. because they were very physically and emotionally and mentally abusive. So once I realized what the steps were, I kind of had some issues with that, because you really gotta yank that band-aid off to do some of the step work. And I'll get into that more in a minute, but it kind of, at first glance, the steps kind of give you a guideline of, or I thought that the steps were going to give me a guideline of how to repair my life. And, patch back together the pieces of what I had let fall apart on the inside. Because on the outside, I presented this put together picture to most people. Most people that knew me did not know anything about me. They didn't know that I had a drug addiction. They didn't know how long I had had a drug addiction. They didn't know anything about my childhood. They didn't know anything about my family. They didn't know anything about my past relationships. Most people just didn't know anything about me. They just knew that whenever they saw Jessica, she was always really happy and, worked all the time. And that's how most people would describe me. So I just was looking for a way to help put me back together in here. And I really thought that NA was going to do that for me. So when I saw the steps, I was like, oh, well, there's like a guideline, because I'm a nerd through and through, and that's what I wanted. And I really thought that it was going to be like a community, like a family. And then I got introduced to like speaker tapes, and all speaker tapes are when, like in NA, you have certain types of meetings. There are different types of meetings, and you can, for like celebrations or for different things. Depending on what's going on, you can have certain members, I guess. I don't know what else to call them. Members of NA come into the group, or if they're already part of the group, whatever, stand up and tell their story. And that is a very, very powerful tool for me. To hear other people's stories, because the very first time that I heard someone share their story, her name is Denise Y. She lives in a city that is close to me now. I still talk to her to this day because she made such a massive impact on my life. She blew me away. The first time that I heard someone share their story in a NA meeting, it was Denise, and it was the first time that I really, really realized that there were, that I wasn't alone, and that there were other people like me in this world. And by that I mean like other people like me that had lived through what I had as a child and had tried to deal with it the way that I had as an adult. And I'd never had that before. So, these meetings gave me a place to go to when I felt like I had literally ripped my skin off and was just walking around, stripped bare for all the world to see. Sorry, y'all. And I thought that all these people that I was meeting that were coming to these meetings were going to be like a surrogate family for me. Because they would come up to you and give you a hug and tell you that they loved you. And that was the image that they portrayed. You know. And then I started hearing people's stories. And when people share their stories in NA, you know, different people do it different ways, but most of them don't go in depth about their drug use, you know, for obvious reasons. But you get the idea. You know, we're all drug addicts there, so we don't need details. But for me, just sitting there, listening to people tell their stories and, you know, hearing that there were so many other people that had grown up with step parents the way that I had, or, you know, parents didn't have to be step parents for them, I don't guess, but it was for me. You know, it was just so surreal in a way to realize, you know, there I was in my 30s, and I don't know, it was just so surreal. It really was, to get that far in my life and to just have, you know, someone stand. You know, the first time that I heard Denise tell her story, I felt like when she opened her mouth, my childhood was falling out of it. And it was so weird. I remember I was sitting in this recliner, like rocking chair thing, and she was sitting across the room from me, and I was sitting there and I was so sick. God, y'all, I was so sick, like withdrawals, sick. And I was honestly sitting there thinking about getting up and leaving the meeting and going outside and calling one of my dealers, because I was just, you know, withdrawals are the breaking point for me most of the time. And I was just so sick. And then she started talking, and I just started listening. And like halfway through, well, not even halfway through, she'd probably been talking for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I just realized that I had sat all the way up in my seat and was leaning forward, you know, just staring at her, because I was like, oh my God, like, did she grow up in my house and I didn't realize she was there the whole time? It was insane. So those are the parts that I love about NA. It felt like such a safe place to go at first. You know, when you're walking around, when you're brand new in recovery, brand spanking new in recovery, and you just feel like you're just laid out bare for all the world to see, and you can't stand anything to touch you. I mean, when you feel like you're laid out bare for all the world to see emotionally and physically, you're just in so much pain because you're going through the withdrawals, and, you know, and you're so used to having all of that stuff in your system that helps you deal, quote unquote, with all of your mental issues that you have going on, and now you don't have any of that, you know, so all the depression and anxiety and everything is just crashing in on top of you, and it's 10 times worse than, you know, it's just so hard. It's so unbelievably hard. If non-drug users could just feel that for a day, y'all would never question us again. And I think the comments of, why don't you just quit, would fucking stop. Because you would understand it a lot better why we can't just quit. But anyway, this video is already over 30 minutes, so I guess I'm going to quit this one right here. And we will make a part 2. And in part 2, I'll explain to you why I don't participate in 12-step programs anymore. And yeah, then we can go from there. And in the second one, I will also tell you guys what I do now and all that good stuff, and tell you what I did in the interim. What I did, from when I stopped going to meetings, because it was kind of an abrupt stop. And what I did in between, because there was a time, where I just stopped going to meetings, and before I really found my groove and what I kind of do now. So for today, I'm just going to stop that here, and that's all we're going to do today. Hopefully that was not too rambly and crazy, and you guys got some value out of that, and maybe that answered some questions. Yeah. So this one should go up on Friday, and part 2 will go up on Wednesday of next week, hopefully. And hopefully the sound and all is good. If you guys could let me know in the comments, that would be great. I appreciate it. I saw that I got 2 new subscribers. I don't know who you are, but if you want to drop me a comment and let me know if you recently subscribed, I would greatly appreciate it. Because if you subscribe to the channel, unless your profile is public on YouTube, I don't know who you are. So it's only telling me who like 7 of my subscribers are. But I appreciate all of you. If you guys would like this video, if you liked it, share it if you think it's worth sharing. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed, smash that red subscribe button down there. I would really appreciate it. And please, if you're watching, please leave me a comment. The more comments that you guys leave, it's interaction. And YouTube is not going to start pushing me out into the wild world of YouTube for other people to start seeing my videos unless I start getting comments. Just because that's the way their weirdo algorithm works. So unless I start getting like people interacting on my videos, so you guys comment and I comment back and we can have like conversations and stuff like that, it's going to take me even longer to get out there and to get my word out there on YouTube. So yeah, like, subscribe. I feel like there's, comment, duh, I just said it. Do all that good stuff. All right, you guys, that is it for today. So I will not see you until next week. So stay safe, watch out for each other, have a good weekend. If you're still using, test your supplies. Please test your supplies. Carry Narcan. If you need Narcan training, please reach out to me. All my contact information is always in the description box below. I'll also link how you can get in touch with your local NA if you're interested. Like I said, just because I've had a bad experience with NA doesn't mean that you will. 12-step programs are great. They work great for a lot of people. Just because they didn't work for me doesn't mean that they will not work for you, okay? Don't ever gatekeep someone else's recovery, and do not let anyone else gatekeep yours, okay? How we choose to recover is our business. It's not anybody else's. Stay safe, stay alive, and be fucking nice to each other. Love y'all. Bye.